If you want to start teaching yourself Mandarin Chinese, there are so many resources already available, either books or apps. And today I wanted to share with you a bit all the resources I have for Mandarin Chinese and also all the apps I tried. There are some of them that I'm not using that much, and I also think I'm not spending as much time as I wished for Chinese. I just wanted to share with you all the resources that I have, my opinion about it, and how they could be maybe useful for you. But as I have a lot of resources that I wanted to share with you today, I think we should definitely start now. So first, let's talk about books, because I really love books, so I have kind of a few, and I think there were no other ways of starting this video than talking about those books. So HSK level books. So it's really based on the HSK exam. So HSK is for Hanyu Shuiping Kaoshi, which means Chinese level exams. And I have the textbook and the workbook also for HSK 3 and also for HSK 4 that I did not open yet because I'm still kind of HSK 3, I guess. So definitely those books are the best one if you want to get prepared to take this exam, because I think it's the most common exam level in Mandarin Chinese, and you will really have exercises very similar to what you're gonna have in the exam. They will also make you learn some vocabulary, and you can already find the list of vocabulary per different level online. I know that those books are related, if I'm not mistaken, to the old HSK system because everything's changed. So maybe it's not accurate now with the current HSK 3 and 4, because I think now the level are a bit higher, but you can already find also the list of vocabulary related to every level, which allows you to kind of have a structure and your vocabulary that you want to learn. And even though I did not go that far yet in those books, what I really like is that you also have a flashcode or a CD, it depends which books you're buying, whatever, you have the audio file as well. So you also have all these listening exercises and comprehension to also just practice your pronunciation as well. So if I had to keep only one resource as a book, I would probably keep this one because it's really the most related, where you can actually follow where your level is going, how it is going so far. So I couldn't do this video without talking about those books, and the workbook will be directly related to the chapter you just saw in the textbook, which allows you just to train, to practice, and to see what you understand from where did you not. So I think those kind of exercises are really well defined and well structured in order to make you progress. The two next books resources are books that I bought actually here when I arrived in Hong Kong. So I have the Easy Mandarin Chinese that I bought here in Hong Kong because I saw a few languages, polyglots, YouTubers talking about those methods like Easy Mandarin, Tagalog or whatever. So I thought it could be good to try, but actually I did not use it, and I'm not sure I will because they do not have any characters. It's only pinyin, or they have a very few pages with a few characters, but like most of the text and most of the sentences, exercises are only with pinyin, and that's really not how I want personally to learn Mandarin, because I really want to be able to also read and write. So unfortunately I will probably not use this book so much. So that's just something for you to know in case you were interested about an easy method that you won't have that many characters. So if you're not interested about that, that's your own choice. But for me and for what I wanted to do with Mandarin, this is definitely not the best book to use. The second resource that I have that I bought here in Hong Kong is Chinese Made Easy. It's kind of similar to the book I have for Cantonese that I showed in my previous video. So basically it's really some vocabulary with, you have the pinyin, the translation in English, and I think it's a pretty good book also for vocab, just to have a few more vocabulary, but also some little sentences which could be actually very useful to know. If you don't really know how to build sentences, it could be great not to have just random words, but also to show how to actually use them. So I did not use it so far that much because I did not have that many time to learn Chinese these last weeks, but I think it's a pretty funny book and also a different way to learn vocabulary. I have another resource for vocabulary, but it is a book from French to Chinese. So this is Petit Vocabulaire Actuel, which is like little current vocabulary, and basically here it's really like a long list of vocab, and I had the same kind of book when I learned English in high school, so I thought it was a pretty complete book, and it is very bigger than the one we had in English as well. So I thought that anyways, I do not have maybe to learn every single page, but if there's a subject that I think it's important or very accurate for me to learn, I can just use this book. I'm actually not sure if it exists from English English to Mandarin. I will have to check, but in case you're speaking French, this vocabulary book is very good. Finally, before leaving, I also wanted to try the assimil method for Chinese. Assimils are very well known in just the world of learning languages. They have basically books for almost every language as possible, and also I think the methods are very well structured. You really have a little lesson every day which really make you progress, and it's also structured as you have, I think, the 51st lessons that you're just learning like this, and then you have active recall where as long as you go above the 50th lesson, you have to do active recall with the first lesson you had before. So which means that, for example, you're going to do lesson 51 with the first lesson, lesson 52 with the second lesson, and so on. So you're also going to review all the previous lessons that you learned. I did a few chapters already in it because, well, as I already learned a bit of Mandarin, like the very first chapters were pretty easy because that was vocabulary I already had. But I think it's very good if you want also to have kind of a structure in your learning. I think if you have just an overview with like a big vocabulary book and a big grammar book, it's sometimes hard to know like what to start with. So it could be great also if you want to learn a language for the first time on your own to have a structure like the one proposed in Assimil. So that's why I also included this book in this video. And finally, my last resource, it's actually a book which is from French to Chinese. So I know there are so many books that you can also have from English to Chinese and so on, but I did not start it yet because I don't think I'm that much ready. At least I would have to review a lot of vocab before actually starting to do it, because if I'm just like reading and just translating without learning any words, I don't think that's going to be that efficient. But I think those books are pretty nice. You always have the page in Chinese and then the page, well, in French in this case, and just to increase and to discover more current vocabulary, I would say, that can be used in everyday life. I think those kind of books are pretty well, so that's why I also included this book in this video. Then let's talk a bit more about apps. So as you know, there are so many languages learning apps. Some are very well known, some a tiny bit less. So I kind of tried a few of them. So I just wanted to share how and which one for me are the most important or the most accurate that you can actually use. The first app, which is the most useful app I ever used to learn Chinese, is Pleco. Pleco is a Chinese-English dictionary, and it's very nice because you can either just type the character if you don't know its meaning in English, or for example, if you just find a character and you don't know what that means or you don't know how just to write it, also if you have a pinyin keyboard, you just don't know how it sounds, you also have possibility just to draw the character, and then they will recognize it, and then they will tell you, of course, the meaning. And for every word, you're also going to have a few sentences. They will just show you basically how to use the word in context. You also have the stroke order, so to know in which direction you're supposed to write a character, because if you didn't know, there's actually an order of the strokes, so you cannot just draw it the way you want. There's actually a logic under it, so they will also show you just how to draw the character. And I think with all the context that they will give you, it's probably the most powerful dictionary I have, because it's going to really show you, because the same character can sometimes mean a lot of different things, such as in every other language, I guess. So it's pretty great to have those examples so you can actually recognize in your case what this word refers to. The second app that I wanted to talk about is Chinese or Do Chinese. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but this is an application which will help you actually read Chinese. So you will have a little story. There's also a premium version, like basically in every application, where you have to buy. I did not buy it yet because I did not use it that much, and you have also like a few stories which are just on the free access, and you will have different stories depending on your level. So even if you're a newbie, so really beginner, you can already have some very easy story. So if I show you one, for example, and I will just study a chapter, then you're gonna have all the little story, and every time you're gonna click on a sentence, they're going to translate it. You can also see just what a certain word means, so if you just want to have the translation of just one character. And as I said before, I think it's really important to learn the words in context and not only just learning a list of words. So I think it's a way of also having access to more vocabulary or to see how the characters are actually used. So I would definitely recommend for you to just start reading as soon as you can, and I think that Chinese is really good for that. Another app that I love so much is Lingodeer, and I think Lingodeer is very useful and powerful in this this object of actually make you learn some characters, and they will put the importance that you need on this thing, which is probably lacking, for example, in Duolingo. I think it's probably lacking a lot of things related to the characters, so I think Lingodeer for that is really good. You have to pay for it. I don't remember exactly how much I paid, but then I just had access to the whole app. So you have so many languages, and every time they will update and add a new one, then you're gonna have access to this language as well. And as I really love learning languages, and I know I wouldn't probably be using Lingodeer only for Chinese, I thought it was also a good purchase because it's just something you buy but for actually learning a few languages. So if you spread that through just everything you want to learn, is pretty good. But you don't only have Asian languages, you also have a few others such as French, Spanish, German, Italian, Russian, Arabic, Thai, which are new. And you can see that they also have, for example, Spanish from Spain and Spanish from Latin America. So I think it's really like an application which goes in depth with what you actually want to learn. So if you're hesitating to buy an application for your studies, that's probably one I would recommend the most. I'm not sponsored by Lingodeer at all. It's just really an application that I enjoyed using. I cannot say like which level you will reach by only using one app, because I always try to spread a bit my resources, as you can see with all the books that I have, all the different applications that I'm using, because I think it can get pretty boring if you're just using the same application over and over again. But for example, you have it separated to at least HSK 3-4, so I don't know how far it goes in this. And you also have the character drill, which makes you learn the top 1000 essential Chinese characters, which is by far the things I would start doing if I would have to start learning Chinese from scratch again. And I think in languages learning, it's also super important to be able to speak to people, or actually to understand also what people would text you. And that's why I would also talk in this video about Tandem. Tandem is an app which helps you connect with people learning the languages that you already speak. So for my case, I would say that I can speak English and French, and then I want to learn Mandarin. And then someone who is speaking Mandarin and want to learn French, for example, can text me so I can help him with his or her French, and then he or she can help me back with my Chinese. So I kind of have some period where I was using it a lot. You will also sometimes receive some very weird text, but that's not most of the cases. And I think it's pretty great that you have this opportunity to actually correct what the person is saying, and you can correct it without being afraid of hurting the people's feeling or whatever, because it's really why people are here on this app. It's just to make mistakes and to have people help them improve. I think the whole system behind Tandem is really well done, as you can really try to practice. You just get in touch with some people as well who can talk to you about their country, the culture, through learning this language. And I think it's really great in this way if you just want to practice a bit more. Then another app is Supertest. So Supertest will give you some kind of sample exam if you want to pass the HSK exams. So I think you cannot access all the app for free. I did not pay for the premium version, I only have the free one, but you can already have a few samples, little exams that you can pass for different HSK level if you want to see a bit if you're ready, or how hard is it, or how the questions are going to build. So I think for that, Supertest is really good because it can really prepare you for this exam. I don't know now how accurate it is with all the changes in HSK level. That's something I will have to check, but I just really wanted to mention Supertest as well, because if you're thinking about taking any exams, maybe download this app. It could be very, very, very helpful for you. So then I will just talk very little about Duolingo, because this is not the app that I would use the most or that I'm actually using for Chinese. I sometimes try, to do a few chapters and you can learn a bit of vocabulary, but that's not the way I want to learn the language. As I'm self-learning Chinese now, Duolingo is definitely not structured as I would structure my Chinese learning, and I think it could be something to use on the side if you're in a bus, you just want to review or learn a few vocab. But maybe if you really want to make progress in Mandarin, don't use Duolingo as your main resource. And finally, the last app that I'm going to talk about is Anki. So Anki is not directly related to languages because you can use it for anything, as it's a flashcard app based on spaced repetitions. But if you're learning a language like Mandarin, if you just search on the web top 1000 characters in Mandarin, in Anki you will already have Anki deck that people already made, so you don't have to make yours. You can just download them directly into Anki and then just start to learn. You also have that for I think almost all HSK levels, so it's super nice because it avoids you to spend too many times on doing those flashcards because some people already did, and you can access the decks of those people for free on the web. So that's why I think Anki is super nice, and as they're really based on spaced repetitions and based on if you really know this character, they're not going to show it to you anymore before a very long time. But if you're really struggling with some, they will appear as soon as possible, kind of when you're reviewing characters. That will really help you learn the characters that you don't know and just not passing the flashcards again and again over words you already knew, and kind of lose your time that you have in learning vocab, for example. So this is all for this video. I know that I have a lot of resources for Mandarin. I'm not using all of them very actively all the time for sure, as I talked a bit before. But I thought it could be a great idea to just share all my resources, because some resources that I think are not the most useful for me could be a bit more useful for you. So that's why I just share with you everything I tried, so you can also try to see what you need. If you're thinking about doing an HSK exam, then I would definitely recommend you to buy those HSK book. Or if you just want to learn speaking and don't care about the character, maybe the Easy Mandarin book will be enough, and so on. So thanks again for watching until the end of this video, and see you in the next one.